one of the core, of the three components of mindful self-compassion, the mindfulness, the common humanity, and the self-kindness. If we can practice that self-kindness and compassion for ourselves, we can practice it to others. Because hurt people hurt people. So a lot of times when people are doing these fear-based things, it's because they don't feel comfortable enough in their own skin. They don't have their own self-love. And if they don't have that first, if you don't have that self-care and that awareness of what's going on inside of you first, then you can't be the best citizen and coworker and colleague and community member and relative to others.
Hello, this is Marco Rock. Welcome to Marco Rock TV. My name is Marco Rock. I'm your host for Inside Grammar, where we interview entrepreneurs, game changer, achiever for the purpose to inspire and inform you. Today we're so thrilled for our guest, Katarina Gleisberg. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Who is Katarina Gleisberg?
So I am a passionate, curious, lifelong learner who used that learning to become a teacher. And of course, all teachers still need to be curious, lifelong learners. Now I teach mindfulness.
So can you tell us what mindfulness means? What's the process?
Yes, so mindfulness is paying attention on purpose to the present moment without judgment. So mindfulness has two different wings. So there's the clear seeing, which is the awareness part that most people think of, but a lot of people don't think about the compassion part, which is the second wing of mindfulness, meaning that how we pay attention is just as important as the fact that we are paying attention, meaning like with what attitude, and therefore the non-judgment comes in.
That's awesome. What's your golden rule about practicing mindfulness?
That golden rule of mindfulness is that every single person, no matter their age or background or where they are or what they're doing, everyone can practice mindfulness at any time free of charge. It is available to us all.
But how do you do it though?
So mindfulness, part of that is paying attention to, we said the present moment. You can do that by paying attention to any of the senses, or your emotions or thoughts. So for example, that can be as simple as when I'm feeling overwhelmed, taking a pause to just notice what's going on in my body, right? Maybe it is an increased heart rate. Maybe it is my face is getting warm, or my fists are clenching up, or I feel a knot in my stomach. So it could just be paying attention to one of the senses, such as breathing, or just simply listening. If I'm outside and I'm non-judgmentally just using sound as my anchor, and I'm hearing birds chirping and road construction and anything else that puts me in the present moment, that's mindfulness. It's that simple. I can pick any one or more of the senses as my anchor.
So how could you people cope with this difficult time that we're living in? People being stuck at home, stress, not knowing what the future is gonna bring. How do people cope with this difficult time?
It's a very good question. So first of all, with mindfulness, we allow anything that is here, like anything going on, we allow it to be as it is. So for example, during this time, a lot of people are experiencing very strong emotions. As we know, it could be disappointment, loneliness, anger, bitterness, despair, confusion, etc. But a lot of times our habit is to push away anything that feels unpleasant. But by pushing it away, there's this equation of suffering equals pain times resistance. So if we resist anything that feels unpleasant, we're actually making that situation worse. So if I can be aware and I can note what's going on, there's this saying, of if you can name it, you can tame it. So if I take a moment to just pause and allow myself to label first what it is I'm feeling. Okay, this is anger, this is confusion, this is anxiety, etc. If I can label it, what it automatically does is it takes that when we feel like we're freaking out or we're getting more overwhelmed, that's the amygdala. That's the ancient part of the brain. That fight, flight, or freeze part of the brain is firing. So the moment that I can actually put words to what's going on, it takes some of the fear away and it takes some of the power away from the emotions so that we don't get caught up in the emotions. And then once we start saying things like labeling it, like this is anger, then we're able to start activating the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain where the critical thinking is happening. So then it's accessing the critical thinking part of the brain, calms down the amygdala where we're freaking out all the time. Because a lot of us have been so overwhelmed with strong emotions that our nervous system is out of whack. We are not settled enough to make our most skillful responses and choices. And so that's why at the beginning of my mindfulness classes, whether I'm working with little kids or I'm working with adults, we always take the time at the very beginning to do a short mindfulness practice where we're bringing attention to what is going on. And we tell them it does not matter what's coming up for you. The actual practice of just labeling what's going on and allowing it to be there, that's mindfulness. So if I'm experiencing anger, like a lot of times we beat ourselves up for feeling angry, or we feel guilty for feeling bad, but that's judging ourselves for the judging. So when we can know what is actually going on, that takes some of the power away. We allow it to be there so it can then more quickly pass, and we can let it go, and we can accept, and we can move on.
That's awesome. Katarina, you have had a chance to travel quite a bit, experience different cultures and different race. Around in this country, we have a strong debate about racism. What do you make up of that?
So a lot of it comes from fear, right? Fear. A lot of fear is being triggered. And yes, I've taught in different countries. And the thing that I have found is that when we can remember the components of mindful self-compassion, one of them, yes, is mindfulness. Notice what's going on. The second one is common humanity. So we may not agree with someone else, but if we can take the time to realize this person is human and just like me, they experience the full range of human emotions. They have their own needs, their own fears. Then that can start to activate compassion. And it's compassion and love that are more powerful, because all the negative emotions fester and fester and fester. So the fact that I can have a conversation with people who have, different views than me or with different backgrounds, that's activating the compassion, because I'm taking the time to understand someone else's background, someone else's point of view, etc., and I'm realizing that we are all human. So that is one of the core, of the three components of mindful self-compassion: the mindfulness, the common humanity, and the self-kindness. If we can practice that self-kindness and compassion for ourselves, we can practice it to others, because hurt people hurt people. So a lot of times when people are doing these fear-based things, it's because they don't feel comfortable enough in their own skin. They don't have their own self-love. And if they don't have that first, if you don't have that self-care and that awareness of what's going on inside of you first, then you can't be the best citizen and coworker and colleague and community member and relative to others.
Awesome. Katarina, who inspires you?
People who are trailblazers.
Okay.
So meaning anyone who does something that's off the beaten path where they are creating it themselves. So entrepreneurs like you, people who I know in my life who've provided me a lot of guidance and encouraged me to be my own creative self. So whether it's parents, whether it's yoga instructors, other teachers who are like, hey, go for something even if it's difficult, even if it doesn't have a guidebook, those are the people who inspire me.
If you were to be an animal, which one would you be and why?
I would be a hummingbird because hummingbirds are small but mighty.
Okay.
Right? They have that super fast metabolism and they are just able to dart everywhere and just use all of that strength no matter how small they are.
Well, if you have the power to make one positive change in the world right now, what would that be?
I would say for people to pause and practice mindfulness.
Okay.
Because mindfulness creates that space between an impulsive reaction, which we often regret, and a skillful response. If we can take the time to pause and know what's going on within ourselves, that can help us to have a skillful response and how to treat others. And I really believe in, the Dalai Lama has this quote of, if every 8-year-old in the world was taught meditation, violence would cease to exist in one generation. And that's because there's all of these benefits of mindfulness meditation. Decreased reactivity is one of them, greater attention is another. But people realize that my emotions, my actions, they're within my control. So if we had people who didn't react to everything that was going on and took accountability for everything going on within inside of them, then you would have people who would make these skillful responses so that they're not hurting others and they're not becoming imprisoned. These people are making choices for the betterment of everyone. And oh my gosh, as an element from the elementary teacher background, if my students were able to take accountability for their own actions, that would decrease a lot of teacher stress.
Yeah.
But he did it too. But she's doing that, why do I have to?
Yeah. What would be your advice tip to my audience?
So my advice would be progress over perfection.
Okay.
Like a lot of things in life, any new type of habit or skill that we're trying to grow, we think that it needs to be an overnight thing, or we have these giant, hard to reach goals right away, but to take baby steps. So with mindfulness, for example, people think that, if my attention's wandering, then I'm not good at it, but our brains are wired for our attention to go all over the place. So with mindfulness, anyone who wants to practice that and experience any of these wonderful benefits, pick something small that you're already doing in your life, such as that's part of your daily routine. It could be brushing your teeth, making your bed, doing the dishes.
Yeah.
And during that activity that you're already doing, practicing mindfulness could be paying attention to something like, with brushing your teeth, paying attention to the sensation of the bristles on the gums, or the taste of the toothpaste, or the movement, or anything that is sensory. And when you're doing that, paying attention to that present moment and not escaping into ruminating about what happened in the past that you can't change, or stuck in the anxiety of the future that may or may not happen, you are practicing that mindfulness muscle, and you are giving yourself a break, and you are allowing yourself to be instead of feeling like you always have to do.
Oh, that's powerful. Katarina, how can people find more information about you and learn more about the work that you do?
So I am Katarina Gleisberg on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I'm the only person with my name. So you can find me on any of the platforms, and they're all linked together. But I love answering questions, and I create things such as mindfulness videos.
Okay.
And even my latest mindfulness e-course, that's mindfulness for beginners. I create all of that based on what people say that they want, like what it is they're searching for. So what value can I bring? So please reach out. I just want to provide relief for people, especially teachers and caregivers, because that's who I can relate to most, but all of us, to make more skillful decisions based on paying attention on purpose to our own self without judgment.
Katarina, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.